The backpacker murders were a spate of serial killings that took place in New South Wales, Australia, between 1989 and 1993, committed by Ivan Milat. The bodies of 7 missing young people aged 19 to 22 were discovered partially buried in the Belanglo State Forest, 15 kilometres, 9.3 mi, southwest of the New South Wales town of Berrima. 5 of the victims were foreign backpackers, 3 German, 2 British, and 2 were Australian travellers from Melbourne. Milat was convicted of the murders on the 27th of July 1996 and was sentenced to 7 consecutive life sentences, as well as 18 years without parole. He died in prison on the 27th of October 2019. Having never confessed to the murders for which he was convicted. Up until the mid-1990s, hitchhiking in Australia was viewed as an adventurous and inexpensive, if not completely safe, means of travel. Encouraged in the 1980s by successful tourism campaigns such as Shrimp on the Barbie and articles in travel publications such as Lonely Planet, backpackers on limited budgets sought ways to travel cheaply, such as purchasing used cars or using buses. However, unsolved Australian missing person cases such as that of Trudy Adams, 1978, Tony Jones, 1982, Naoko Onda, 1987, and Anna Rosaliva, 1991, led to those who still hitchhiked to begin to travel in pairs for safety. By the time of the first Belanglo State Forest discoveries, several other backpackers had also disappeared. One case involved a young Victorian couple from Frankston, Deborah Everest, 19, and James Gibson, 19, who had been missing since leaving Sydney for Confest, near Albury, on the 30th of December 1989. Another related to Simone Schmidl, 21, from Germany, who had been missing since leaving Sydney for Melbourne on the 20th of January 1991. Similarly, a German couple, Gabor Neugebauer, 21, and Anja Habschid, 20, had disappeared after leaving a King's Cross hostel for Mildura on the 26th of December 1991. Another involved missing British backpackers Caroline Clark, 21, and Joanne Walters, 22, who were last seen in King's Cross on the 18th of April 1992. On the 19th of September 1992, 2 runners discovered a concealed corpse while orienteering in Belanglo. The following morning, police discovered a second body 30 meters, 98 feet, from the first. Police quickly confirmed, via dental records, that the bodies were those of Clark and Walters. Walters had been stabbed 14 times, 4 times in the chest, once in the neck, and 9 times in the back, which would have paralyzed her. Clark had been shot 10 times in the head at the burial site, and police believe she had been used as target practice. After a thorough search of the forest, investigators ruled out the possibility of further discoveries within Belanglo State Forest. In October 1993, a local man searching for firewood discovered bones in a particularly remote section of the forest. He returned with police to the scene, where 2 bodies were quickly discovered and later identified as Gibson and Everest. Gibson's skeleton, found in a fetal position, showed 8 stab wounds. A large knife had cut through his upper spine, causing paralysis, and stab wounds to his back and chest would have punctured his heart and lungs. Everest had been savagely beaten, her skull was fractured in 2 places, her jaw was broken, and there were knife marks on her forehead. She had been stabbed once in the back. The presence of Gibson's body in Belanglo puzzled investigators, as his camera had previously been discovered on the 31st of December 1989, and his backpack later on the 13th of March 1990, by the side of the road at Galston Gorge, in the northern Sydney suburbs, over 120 kilometres, 75 mi, to the north. On the 1st of November 1993, a skeleton was found in a clearing along a fire trail in the forest during a police sweep. It was later identified as that of Schmidl, and bore at least 8 stab wounds. 2 had severed her spine and others would have punctured her heart and lungs. Clothing found at the scene was not Schmidl's, but matched that of another missing backpacker, Habschid. The bodies of Habschid and Neugebauer were then found on a nearby fire trail, on the 4th of November 1993, in shallow graves 50 meters, 160 feet, apart. Habschid had been decapitated, and despite an extensive search, her skull was never found. Neugebauer had been shot in the head 6 times. There was evidence that some of the victims did not die instantly from their injuries. In response to the finds, on the 14th of October 1993, Task Force Air, containing more than 20 detectives and analysts, was set up by the NSW police. On the 5th of November 1993, the NSW government increased the reward in relation to the Belanglo serial killings to $500,000. Public warnings were also given, particularly aimed at international backpackers, to avoid hitchhiking along the Hume Highway. After developing their profile of the killer, the police faced an enormous volume of data from numerous sources. Investigators applied link analysis technology to roads and traffic authority vehicle records, gym memberships, gun licensing, and internal police records. As a result, the list of suspects was progressively narrowed to a short list of 230, then to an even shorter list of 32. There were similar aspects to all the murders. Each of the bodies had been dumped in remote bushland and covered by a pyramid of sticks and ferns. Forensic study determined that each had suffered multiple stab wounds to the torso, and many showed signs of sexual assault. The killer, probably a local with a 4WD, had evidently restrained and spent considerable time with the victims both during and after the murders, as campsites were discovered close to the location of each body. Matching .22 bullets, shell casings, and cartridge boxes from 2 weapons also linked the crime scenes. Speculation arose that the crimes were the work of several killers. Given that most of the victims had been attacked while as pairs, had been killed in different ways, and buried separately. On the 13th of November 1993, police received a call from Paul Onions, 24, in the UK. On the 25th of January 1990, Onions had been backpacking in Australia and, while hitchhiking from Liverpool station towards Mildura, had accepted a ride south out of Casula from a man known only as Bill. South of the town of Mittagong, and less than 1 kilometre from Belanglo State Forest, Bill stopped and pulled out a revolver and some ropes stating it was a robbery, at which point Onions managed to flee while Bill pursued and shouted at him. Onions flagged down Joanne Berry, a passing motorist, and together they sped off and described the assailant and his vehicle to the Parole police. On the 13th of April 1994, detectives re-found the note regarding Onions' call and sought the original report from Parole police, but it was missing. Fortunately, a constable had recorded details in her notebook. Onion's statement was corroborated by Berry, who had also contacted the investigation team, along with the girlfriend of a man who worked with Ivan Milat, who thought he should be questioned over the case. On the 26th of February 1994, police surveillance of the Milat house at Cinnabar Street, Eagle Vale commenced. Police learned that Milat had recently sold his silver Nissan Patrol 4-wheel drive shortly after the discovery of the bodies of Clark and Walters. Police also confirmed that Milat had not been working on any of the days of the attacks, and acquaintances also told police about Milat's obsession with weapons. Milat's brother, Bill, who often had his identity used by his brother for work or vehicle registrations, was questioned by investigators. When the connection between the Belanglo murders and Onions' experience was made, Onions flew to Australia to help with the investigation. On the 5th of May 1994, Onions positively identified Milat as the man who had picked him up and attempted to assault him. Milat was arrested at his home on the 22nd of May 1994 on robbery and weapon charges related to the Onions attack after 50 police officers surrounded the premises, including heavily armed officers from the Tactical Operations Unit. The search of Milat's home revealed various weapons, including a .22 caliber Anschutz Model 1441 .42 rifle and parts of a .22 caliber Ruger 10-22 rifle that matched the type used in the murders, a Browning pistol, and a Bowie knife. Also uncovered was foreign currency, clothing, a tent, sleeping bags, camping equipment and cameras belonging to several of his victims. Homes belonging to his mother and 5 of his brothers were also searched at the same time by over 300 police, uncovering a total of 24 weapons, 250 kilograms of ammunition, and several more items belonging to the victims. Milat appeared in court on the 23rd of May, but he did not enter a plea. On the 31st of May, Milat was also charged with the 7 backpacker murders. On the 28th of June, Milat sacked his defense lawyer, Marston, and sought legal aid to pay for his defense. Meanwhile, brothers Richard and Walter were tried in relation to weapons, drugs and stolen items found on their properties. A committal hearing for Milat regarding the murders began on the 24th of October and lasted until the 12th of December, during which over 200 witnesses appeared. Based on the evidence, at the beginning of February 1995, Milat was remanded in custody until June that same year. On the 26th of March 1996, the trial opened at the NSW Supreme Court and was prosecuted by Mark Tedeschi. His defense argued that, in spite of the evidence, there was no non-circumstantial proof Milat was guilty and attempted to shift the blame to other members of his family, particularly Richard. 145 witnesses took the stand, including members of the Milat family who endeavored to provide alibis, and, on the 18th of June, Milat himself. On the 27th of July 1996, after 18 weeks of testimony, a jury found Milat guilty of the murders. He was given a life sentence on each count without the possibility of parole. He was also convicted of the attempted murder, false imprisonment and robbery of Onions, for which he received 6 years jail each. Police maintain that Milat could have been involved in more attacks or murders than the 7 for which he was convicted. Based on most similarities, examples include Karen Rowland, 20, disappeared the 26th of February 1971, found in the Fairbairn Pine Plantation in May 1971, Peter Letcher, 18, missing November 1987, found in the Belanglo State Forest in 1988, and Diane Pennocchio, 29, disappeared the 6th of September 1991, found in the Talaganda State Forest in November 1991. Further, given the possibility of an accomplice, the murder cases were kept open. On the 18th of July 2005, Milat's former lawyer, Marston, made a deathbed statement in which he claimed that Milat had been assisted by his sister, Shirley Swore, 1946-2003, in the killings of the 2 British backpackers. In 2001, Milat was ordered to give evidence at an inquest into the disappearances in the Newcastle area of 3 other female backpackers. Leanne Goodall, 20, disappeared the 30th of December 1978, Robin Hickey, 18, disappeared the 7th of April 1979, Amanda Robinson, 14, disappeared the 21st of April 1979. A related cold case is that of Gordana Kotevsky, 16, who disappeared in 1994. Although Milat was working in the area at the time of the crimes, no case has been brought against him due to a lack of evidence. Similar inquiries were launched in 2003, in relation to the disappearance of 2 nurses, and again in 2005, relating to the disappearance of hitchhiker Annette Briffa, but no charges were laid. In 2010, in a media interview, Onions described how he accepted, but did not use, a $200,000 reward granted for his part in the conviction of Milat. On his first day, when arriving at Maitland Gaol, Milat was beaten by another inmate. Almost a year later, on the 16th of May 1997, he made an escape attempt alongside convicted drug dealer and former Sydney councillor George Savas. The plan failed and Savas was found hanged in his cell the next day, and Milat was transferred to the maximum security section at Goulburn Correctional Centre in Goulburn, New South Wales. In November 1997, Milat appealed against his convictions due to a breach of his common law right to legal representation, as established in Dietrich vs. the Queen. However, the New South Wales Court of Criminal Appeal dismissed the appeal. In 2004, Milat filed an application with the High Court of Australia that he be allowed special leave to appeal on new grounds. The application for leave was ultimately dismissed, affirming the Court of Criminal Appeal's decision to disallow his initial appeal. On the 27th of October, 2005, in the NSW Supreme Court, Milat's final avenue of appeal was refused. In 2006, 2 other application attempts were rejected as well, as was one in November 2011. In 2001, following the opening of the High Risk Management Corrections Centre, SUPAMAX, at Goulburn Correctional Centre, Milat was transferred from the maximum security section of the prison into one of its 45 new units. In 2006, a toaster and TV given to Milat in his cell caused a public outcry. On the 26th of January, 2009, Milat cut off his little finger with a plastic knife, with the intention of mailing it to the High Court of Australia to force an appeal. He was taken to Goulburn Base Hospital under high security. However, on the 27th of January, 2009, Milat was returned to prison after doctors decided surgery was not possible. Milat had previously self-harmed in 2001, when he swallowed razor blades, staples and other metal objects. In May 2011, Milat went on a 9-day hunger strike, losing 25 kilograms in an unsuccessful attempt to be given a PlayStation. In May 2019, Milat was transferred to the Prince of Wales Hospital, Randwick, and was subsequently diagnosed with terminal esophageal cancer. Following his treatment, he was transferred to the Long Bay Correctional Centre to continue his custodial sentences. On the 9th of August, 2019, a terminally ill Milat was moved to a secure treatment unit located at the Prince of Wales Hospital following the loss of 20 kilograms in previous weeks. Milat was also exhibiting a high temperature. His status, however, was reported as not life-threatening. On the 27th of October, 2019, Milat died from esophagus and stomach cancer at 4:07 a.m. within the hospital wing at Long Bay Correctional Centre. He was 74 years old. Prior to his death, Milat wrote a letter to his family requesting that his funeral be paid for by the New South Wales government. The request was denied by NSW Corrections Minister Anthony Roberts. Instead, Milat's body was cremated with the full reimbursement of costs to be paid from his prison account. Thank you for watching Fathers on the Case. Please like and subscribe.